Seeing none, we will now hear a report from the Constitutional Council. Chief Justice Buchmeyer, you are recognized.
Good evening, everyone. We're back to a non-laptop week. Only major updates is we had the hearing regarding Lewis v. Richardson last Thursday. Decision all got released for that. I think that's the only one where we actually have an outstanding opinion on, at least last time I checked earlier today. Everything else has been in the process of being uploaded into that drive. Only thing I'd like to say is a huge thanks to the Elections Commission and Sean Duty in his capacity as election commissioner for their work in helping the Constitutional Council process all the claims these last couple of weeks. I think the final tally is that we hit 15. So thank you to their work and everyone else's with the help with that. And then also to the rest of the Constitutional Council, particularly Sam Bryant for taking up and having such great leadership through this entire process. And with that, I'll yield to questions.
The Chief Justice yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you all.
We will now hear a report from the Speaker of the Senate, Maura Hamilton. Speaker of the Senate, Maura Hamilton, you are recognized. Hi guys. Sorry, I've been a little bit MIA. Thank you everybody who sent me nice texts or phone calls. That meant a lot more to me than you'll ever know. But I will be going back to New Jersey this weekend, so if you guys need me, I probably won't be responding. I will be back on Monday, but just please bear with me with that. I know I mentioned a feedback form last week. That's still coming. I really want to hear you guys' opinions and learn how I can be a better speaker to each one of y'all in the end of this year, as well as if you're returning next year or for future senators. So just keep a lookout on your emails for that. I'm trying to work on it. I'm working on rescheduling the food for thought data analysis. Once again, I've just been running in and out of the state. And then also just wanted to remind everybody that we do have Senate on the 19th. I know that there are other things popping up that are during the Senate time. That will get handled, but Senate is absolutely happening on the 19th at 5:30 p.m. If you are recently reelected and you are worried about inauguration rehearsal, we will deal with that. We got a group me message about the caucus day. That will also be dealt with, and you guys will, just to confirm, Senate absolutely last session on the 19th. Please make sure that you're coming dressed in business professional because we are going to be taking a photo. If you have nicer business professional that you really want to wear for a photo op, I don't know, or do your hair makeup, I don't really care, but that's going to be the picture day. And then also just a friendly reminder that if you introduce any legislation next week, that doesn't mean that your legislation just dies. It just rolls over into the 117th Student Senate. So don't feel like you have to take a break or you lost out on your chance if you didn't get something in this week, because technically you do still have one more week. Just if you weren't reelected, you won't necessarily be there when it's read across the 117th. Other than that, yeah, that's it. I yield my time to questions. Awesome. Seeing none. We are now in line for a report from the Student Body Treasurer. Treasurer Lykin, you are recognized.
Hi everyone. Not a lot for once. As far as internal budget, 98% of that has been used, including 95% of our initiative budget. So I think that's a really great way to end out the year. It means we had a lot of great events throughout our term. For external, if everything gets approved today that is on the finance allocation bill, we'll have spent 79% of our yearly budget for student organizations, which is a great place to be hitting at the beginning of March. For reimbursement updates, we have 79 reimbursements that are currently pending, totaling about $109,000 total. We have approved 38 reimbursement requests from this entire year, totaling about $69,000. The 38 approved is up 35 approved from last week. We've approved about 3,000 more. As a reminder, Matt Hines did kind of implement a new claiming system for the reimbursement requests, so hopefully by next week we'll see a lot more movement. And there has been a lot more movement on the reimbursements, just like the final approval has only gone up by 3. We don't have any remaining from September. We do have 2 reimbursement requests still pending from October. 2 of those I think actually had some movement today I saw, and then we do still have 9 remaining from November. So really hoping that we get some movement on those. But as far as branch updates, we're going to have another Slices and Prices event before the end of the term. This will be a great way for organizations to meet our new treasurer, Ashley Reynolds, once she's inaugurated, and kind of start the transition period there a little bit smoothly. And then we're also still working in that reimbursement tutorial. Jacob Wisenet, who's doing that for student organizations, got all the information for that today. So he's working on compiling that before his term ends. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The student body treasurer yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the student body vice president. Are there any representatives present? Seeing none, thank you. We're now in line for a report from the student body president. Are there any representatives present? Seeing none. We are now in line for a report from the SOFAB representatives, Matt Hines and Reese Lykin. Y'all are recognized. Oh, that's not the right one.
Okay, hi everyone, back again. This is Matt Hines. You've heard me talk about him quite a lot. He has been your behind-the-scenes champion for reimbursement. So the movement that we have seen, a lot of that is really due to Matt here. But he's going to explain a little bit of a change in the funding process for next year. I am excited about kind of what I know of the bare bones of this. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for student organizations to have more chances to request funding. It's something that he has been in conversation with the execs and with finance committee about, and so he's going to kind of go through what that looks like a lot. And I'm excited for this to kind of be implemented next year, because as a reminder, like the treasurer's branch was reinstated about 2 years ago, and so it is kind of new still, the system through which we fund organizations, and it's definitely not perfect the way it is currently. And so I'm excited for us to be able to adopt a system that is similar to some of our other SEC universities, and hopefully this will increase, like I said, the chances for student organizations to receive funding. So Matt is going to go into more of the details on that, and then he'll be here to answer questions, and I will as well.
Thanks, Reese. I want to preface this by saying, and Reese, you ended it with the LSC team with Amber Hyatt and Emma and Joshua. They really did a fantastic job of working through and benchmarking our peer SEC institutions. Most of them have a funding board similar to this. I know we kind of modeled this specifically after Auburn. They have a fantastic secondary funding source board at their university. So we did do our research, found this. This isn't us all of a sudden deciding to create something new that nobody's ever seen. Just know that the research was put into this, so that way I think it's going to be really beneficial to all of our students. The Student Assistance Funding Board, going to be known as SOFAB. Let's talk about kind of the current structure of the funding boards across the campus. So is anybody a part of any of these other than the undergraduate one? Have any College of Pharmacy students? Okay, any law students? I know we usually have a couple. So right now, if you're part of one of these boards on the screen behind me and you request funds and you are denied, you don't have the option to go anywhere else. And our College of Pharmacy students probably know that. You're given an allocation. Each of these different boards are given an allocation amount at the beginning of the year, and then those different organizations within those boards will seek funding from them. So if you are a graduate student, you go to the GSA Finance Committee. If you're a sport club, I know Campus Recreation has a sport club executive board. College of Pharmacy allocates theirs over the summer. Law school has their similar processes. So this was our initial problem. We realized that, again, if you are in one of these buckets and you get denied, or if you reach your maximum total, you have nowhere else to go. So we decided to create SOFAB. So the purpose of SOFAB is now to be the central hub for student organization funding on campus. Right now, everyone comes to student government, undergraduate student government, and they just say, hey, my College of Pharmacy isn't giving me money. How do I get more money? That's not it's not expected for you all to answer questions for the university. Sport clubs, whether you're defined as a sport club or not a sport club. If you're denied money from Campus Recreation and the Sport Club Executive Board, it's not the responsibility of the Undergraduate Finance Committee to answer those questions and figure out things for you. So SOFAB will serve as that central hub to kind of guide our students, regardless of the organization you're in, as long as you are in a registered student organization with the LSC, you can come to SOFAB for guidance, but there's also a couple other things you'll do. This is a new funding source, a new funding board. So we created it from scratch. We're not kind of adjusting an existing funding model or a funding board. This is a completely new board, SOFAB is. All right, so the big question is, well, where's this money coming from? Right now, 2 years ago and in the past, Student Government Finance Committee was given around $185,000 a year to allocate to undergraduate student organizations. This past year, with the advocacy from our students this past year, it was increased to $340,000. So right now, Student Government Finance Committee has $340,000 to allocate to student organizations. What we're going to do next year is SoFab we're going to take student government and give them back to $185,000. That difference is going to fund SoFab. So SoFab will take roughly $160,000, that difference, and that's the money they're going to use to allocate to organizations. Again, we're not touching student government other than bringing it back to $185,000. You're going to still completely have your processes as they are. Everyone will still go through the Senate Finance Committee. You'll submit proposals, comptrollers, the treasurer. Your processes and your allocations will remain the same. We're just reducing the money and putting it in a secondary allocation board. So SoFab, here's a couple key points here that I want to talk through. Who's going to make up SoFab? So SoFab is going to be a committee of 5 students. How are these students selected? We're going to have an application process. Students will apply to be a member of SoFab, and then they will be interviewed and selected. There are 2 ex officio members. It's going to be, as of right now, this can always change, myself and Jamie over in the LSC, who is in charge of like student organizations. Many of you, if you're part of a student organization, have worked with Jamie. She's fantastic. She is part of the risk management, so if you've submitted a request through the Student Government Senate Finance Committee, Jamie has passed it and looked at it from a risk perspective, so she's highly involved in all of our student organizations. She's our go-to person. So the 2 of us will be the university members on SoFab. 5 students, 2 university members. How this differs from other boards, specifically the Student Government Finance Committee, is with you all, the proposals come to the Finance Committee. The students in the Finance Committee are making a recommendation, yes or no, whether it should be funded or not, and you as a Senate vote on that every Wednesday. How this board differs is that the students on this board, the 5, will come together, view proposals. They will make a recommendation to the university officials, myself and Jamie right now, and Jamie and I are the ones who are going to make the final decision on whether the event or the proposal is approved for funding or not. So that's the key difference, but that is the makeup of the committee. Caps on spending. The caps on spending are going to be, right now things are categorized, or proposals are categorized in student government. You have events, conferences, and tournaments. Events kind of are broken in half because there's off-campus events and that should really be a conference if it's X miles away off campus, et cetera. And then again, the conference and tournaments. For SoFab, there's going to be two categories. You're either an event, whether on campus or off campus, you're just a straight event, or your travel, whether that is travel to a conference, travel to a tournament, doesn't matter, it is travel. So those are going to be the 2 buckets. The events will have $7,500 as your cap per organization for the year. So each organization will be allowed to request up to $7,500 for the year. With travel, organizations can request $3,000 per year or $600 maximum for a member. The purpose behind this is it stops a president from a student organization of spending all of their allocation and going to conferences with the president and the vice president themselves. It kind of spreads the wealth and encourages students to take multiple members to conferences, tournaments, travel-related purposes. Those are going to be the 2 spending caps for SoFab. I want to make clear that at no time is it required that you come to student government first, or it's required you go to your funding board first. You don't have to go to the College of Pharmacy first, the law school first. You don't have to go to SoFab first. These are meant to run however you want them to. So if you want to go to SoFab and request money, you can. If you want to go to student government to request money, you can. If you want to do both, you can. There will be communication between these boards that we're going to figure out. It's been a topic of conversation on how that works, but we're going to figure it out, and there will be communication between these boards. What's also nice is that right now for events on campus, it has to be open to all students. The purpose of this money is for students to be able to hold events that benefit you all. You individually, you as groups, you as organizations. So if you were to have an event with 50 students, but it's only closed to your organization, you technically aren't allowed to request funding, or you would be denied from student government, for instance, if you say it's closed and it's only for us. SOFAB, one of the key points is you can have it closed to just your organization, because we realize that if you have an event with 50 members of your student organization and you're renting a space in Darla Moore and inviting a speaker, that is just as important as a group having 10 students and saying it's open to everybody. So we recognize there's going to be some differences between the two in terms of type of funding you can have, but that's just one example, the difference between SOFAB and the Senate Finance Committee. The process for requesting funds, and this will move me again into the next slide as well, which is the timeline. So actually you can go there, Maura. With the request for funding, you're going to have to attend training. It's similar to how Student Government and Finance Committee works. In order to request funds from student government, you have to attend a treasurer's workshop. Reese has done a terrific job of offering these for our students. So similarly, I will be hosting training workshops for SOFAB. Those, and you'll see that these will start before school starts. Before classes start in August. I'll be able to host these over the summer, ideally twice a month over the summer. They can be virtual, they can be in person. We'll figure that out, probably a little bit of both, but I'll also continuously have SOFAB workshops, not treasurers workshops, SOFAB workshops throughout the year. So it'll be a continuous workshop training program. We come to you all first because you're our largest constituents on campus. So you are the first group to hear about this, to learn about SOFAB as individuals. The next goal in this timeline behind me is that I'll go to each of the different funding boards that I had on the first slide. So the Law School, College of Pharmacy, set up meetings with fraternity and sorority life, and inform them of what this board is, the purpose behind it, similar to what I'm giving you today. Next, I'll host 2 interest meetings. These are proposed dates behind me. These 2 interest meetings are before we open up applications for all students to become a member of SOFAB. So I didn't want to just open up an application and students who weren't a part of one of these 5 funding boards, such as yourself, had no clue what's going on. So hold interest meetings, see if anyone comes. One will be in the evening, one will be at 11 a.m. the following day. After that, we'll open up applications and we'll see who applies. Any student is free to apply to be a member of SOFAB. Ideally, depending on the amount of applicants, we will have interviews. Jamie and I can host interviews the following week. And ideally, the plan is to select a board of students, a group of students who will serve as the SOFAB committee before the end of the spring semester. So we're going to move quick over the next couple weeks, but it's really so that way it's in place come the summer so we can start trainings. And then we go into a couple of different timelines here. So, I will again hold trainings throughout the summer for students. Like I said, you'll have to attend one of these trainings in order to request funds, but then the application for funds will open up in August. Unlike student government and the other funding boards here, most of those start when classes start. So at the end of August, by the time everything gets kind of put together, we're at the beginning stages of September. So it allows organizations to plan ahead, to not be stressed if they have an event that is the first week of classes. I know you all have funding mechanisms to assist with that, which is fantastic over the years. And so this is the timeline behind us. There's been a lot of thought into this. We've got feedback from your all's execs, so Reese has done a fantastic job of giving us her thoughts and ideas behind this. So I think that covers it, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Are you adding anything, Reese, or? No? Okay. They yield their time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Miller.
That's going to be in addition to. So the College of Pharmacy, the law school, everyone will continue. You'll get your allocation, and I'm usually the one who sends it over to the College of Pharmacy in July once the new budget starts, because I know you all are a little different where I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you all come together with your proposals before classes start, and it's allocated almost before school starts, so that way you know throughout the year. They give that, the finance committee, not the finance committee, the finance team here at the university has a formula to determine how much money each of these boards get. I know what you all get, and you probably allocate it rather quickly, so, and then at this point, you're stuck. You don't have any other funding source unless you go to your college or departments and request funds. So you will still get your College of Pharmacy allocation come July, but now you will also be able to request money from SOFAB.
Are there any other questions? Chairman Wenzel.
So will organizations be able to double dip into both pools for the same event? That is a great question. And so this is where, when I discussed, there will be communication between the different entities, the different funding boards, but ultimately the mechanism to stop double dipping is going to be in the reimbursement process on the back end. So say you have, I'll give an example. Say you're going to a conference for $3,000. You come to SOFAB and you come to student government for the same conference and ask for $3,000. This was something I think that we just even discussed with Reese, was the communication between our funding boards will be able to see this. There's nothing that says you can't do that, and there's nothing that says both organizations, the Senate Finance Committee and SOFAB, can't approve it. The mechanism to stop you all from getting the money, extra money on the back end, is during the reimbursement process. You're only going to get money that you spent. We will have to work out a way, and I don't think we have at this point. It's one of those things that we're going to have to talk about, is if Student Government Finance and SOFAB both give money at the end of the day for a conference, when it's submitted for reimbursement, who gives that money? That's something we're going to have to work out and discuss, but there are mechanisms in place. You aren't just going to start getting free money. And again, these communications that we have as the funding boards together to kind of come together and discuss these things is going to be vital.
Vice Chairman Matthews.
You touched on the communication between SOFAB and student government, and I know you will be in both committees. But what are your thoughts on having a third ex officio member from the treasurer's office to make sure that the communication links are solid?
Sure, I won't be on both boards. Right now, I advise Student Government Finance. We are separating that. So I would be a member, sorry, Jackson.
Emma's awesome. Emma's awesome. She's going to be there.
Emma is fantastic. Right now, the idea is to have Emma serve as the advisor for Student Government Finance Committee, and I would be SOFAB. So I wouldn't oversee both of them. Emma and I will come together. We meet regularly anyways, and so going back to your question, you threw me off guard there with what was your final question?
Having a third ex
That's right.
member on SOFAB from the treasurer's office.
It's important for us to remember that these boards are supposed to be separate. It's very important from leadership at the university that these are separate entities, and should be, what SOFAB does should not play into the minds of Student Government Finance Committee when making a decision. You're supposed to look at a proposal on its face, figure out if it follows your rules, your codes, and make a determination. If it was funded by SOFAB, and in your mind, it shouldn't say, well, they were funded from SOFAB for 2 events so far. Maybe we shouldn't fund them because they have another avenue to go or not. That shouldn't really, theoretically, it shouldn't come into your mind for the Senate Finance Committee. Again, we want to remain independent of each other. We don't want everyone thinking that this is just an extension of a student government process. We want to be fair, again, to the other boards and the other entities around campus, the College of Pharmacy, law schools, fraternities, and sororities, and so we want to try and keep those as separate as we can.
Are there any other questions? Senator Gruner.
For organizations that are going to be requesting money, is it going to be, like I know you said that they're going to be separate, but like would it be that like the organizations stand a better chance if they say you, like you said, $3,000, if they try to request one, like 1,500 from one, 1,500 from the other, and express that, so that way like the vast majority of chances, or are you going to more so recommend that they only try to request one?
I'm not going to recommend that they try either. It's really up to them to figure out. I believe by having conversations with the treasurer's branch ahead of time and just talking through these things, you can kind of figure out ideas like if you talk to student government, what do you think about this? Ask questions. I don't want to say that by requesting partial here, partial there, you're more likely or not. I don't know how it's going to play out. That's really going to be a determination for you all as members of student organizations who will request funds to kind of figure out too on your own. I know That's kind of how it works out in the real world. Is you need a bunch of money, and not one person's going to be able to give it to you. So you kind of request from a couple different areas, partial here, and so that's kind of one of those learning tools. I think that this will help kind of just teach along the way.
Are there any other questions? Senator Rojas.
I know that there is a lot of delays in the reimbursement process, and from what I understand, you guys are going to be taking on essentially the entire workload from what's under the finance team right now. Do you have any comments towards the efficiency that this might, or the implications of efficiency that this might have regarding the workload of the already delayed reimbursement process that we're working with?
Absolutely. First, I know many of you probably have submitted reimbursements, so I want to start off by apologizing for the delay and inconvenience that the process has created. I understand it's frustrating and just want to put that out there. What our finance team actually already handles reimbursements for most of these entities. They are handling reimbursements for undergraduates, for the graduate school. We have just given the law school and the College of Pharmacy, they handle their allocations and reimbursements themselves. If we're thinking ahead about the amount of money now available to student organizations, it's the same amount of money that we currently have. And so if we're spending the same amount of money and have the same amount of reimbursements, it's going to be the same. We're not going to really be adding on any additional in terms of allocating money because it's the same amount of money. I will say that our finance team is creating a new system outside of Garnet Gate that works for the efficiency of our finance team. It's going to be the same for you all, except just a new platform, same questions asked. It should be easier on your end, but it'll also be easier on our finance team members. And so we're trying right now to create new systems to increase the reimbursement speed. I want to give Reese major kudos. She has been a wonderful advocate for you all, meeting with our finance team, our directors of procurement, our AVP for finance, and just the leadership of student affairs in general, advocating for you all as students, that the reimbursement process is slow, and how can she and her team help speed that up. And I anticipate that to continue. The conversations and the voice of you all students matters more than I think sometimes you all realize, and so her coming to the table and voicing the frustrations of you all, of the students, has been extremely helpful. So as she mentioned in her report, we're already working on ways to start to increase it. I think we started to see some movement today, which is exciting. And then so we can only anticipate and hope that with this new process come next year that it'll be even better. So we're always trying to improve and work on things. We realize, again, that our students and the money that you all are out of pocket is extremely important, and we're trying our best. I promise you that.
Are there any other questions? Chairman Wenzel.
Having allocated a little over 80% of the current school budget to undergraduate students alone, what do you think the implications of adding these other entities into the budget for students, undergraduate students?
So you know what? I don't know. I could speculate on what it means. We can try and guess, but we don't know. Undergraduate student orgs are still able to request money from SOFAB. And so although it seems like the university may be taking money out of your budget, we are bringing you back down. The undergraduate student organizations are still allowed to request money from SOFAB. You are right in saying that now, again, it's open to fraternities and sororities, College of Pharmacy, sport clubs, etc. But we don't know. I don't know how many of those will be interested or don't get funding from their current sources. All I know is that right now is if you're in a bucket, there's no secondary options, and so for the first time we're going to try something, and we're going to see how many other student orgs have an appetite for requesting funds outside their individual allocations. Hope that helps.
Are there any other questions? Chairwoman Anderson. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Cumby as Chairwoman Anderson's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairwoman Anderson. Granted. Please watch the side talking. I promise I can hear you guys. Sound travels so fast in here. Chairman Wenzel.
Question about the details of the SOFAB workshops.
Yeah.
You said in your timeline that they were only going on through the summer. Are they going throughout the year, or?
Can you go back one slide? Thank you.
May to July.
Yeah, May to July, I'm gonna hold the SOFAB workshops twice a month, but in addition to throughout the semester. So we're gonna hold them over the summer, so that way we can kind of get a head start, and the organizations who want to request funding can start to become trained on what the processes are and everything. The application will run through Garnet Gate, similar to how it is right now. So it'll be a learning process for the organizations who don't follow that process. For our undergraduates, it's gonna be almost a continuation of the same request process. But I'm going to host these trainings throughout the year. I really want to be able to do them over the summer, because right now there are no finance committee trainings over the summer. And then we'll increase that frequency throughout the year. We'll have standing dates, probably in evening time and afternoon time, to try and and help as many students as possible. But ideally, it's at least twice a month throughout the entire year.
Chairwoman LaPinta.
That's a great question. This has happened. I say this as nice as I can. I don't come, we don't need to make a decision here today. We have decided that, the university has decided that SOFAB is going to move forward for this upcoming year. Really what my goal here today was to let you all know about the changes that are going to be happening. I didn't want all of a sudden have an application for SOFAB to apply and all of you and all your constituents be like, what in the world is this? And so that's part of the reason I'm here today, to educate you all, let you all know that the changes that are gonna be happening, because you all are affected, because we're taking your budget and bringing it down back to what it was in the past and using that for SOFAB like I started out at the beginning. So I hope that I've been able to answer your questions. I'm gonna go to these different funding boards, let them know all of this before we open up an application, so that way everyone has a chance to ask questions, figure out what they wanna do, and see if they're interested in applying.
Are there any other questions? Senator Rojas.
Have the decisions of the 115 students submit throughout the year impacted the formation of the
I wouldn't say directly, but I wouldn't say that they haven't. Again, part of the reason that this board has been created was to allow the university to have the final say in some decisions that are made. I think it'll take pressure off of our student finance committee right now. There's a lot of pressure on you when it comes to decisions that have to be made from organizations who are requesting funding, whether you approve them, whether you deny them, what you fund, what you partially fund, etc. I sit in on those meetings every single Friday, and I understand those conversations that happen, and some of them are difficult conversations. It's a lot of pressure for you all. There's $340,000 right now that you all are responsible to give to student organizations. That alone is a lot of pressure. That's a lot of money. And so partially, I would say some of the decisions, but again, at the end of the day, one of the largest problems which I dealt with over the summer and the beginning of the semester was specifically from a lot of our sport clubs who are no longer sport clubs, or the ones who are, our law students, and even our College of Pharmacy students, knowing what they are given for their total allocations, and again, being stuck in one bucket and not being able to come to you all for money was a huge reason in creating this, because we think it'll open up the ability for more student organizations to go out and represent the university at conferences and tournaments. We know all the great things that our undergraduate orgs are doing, and our College of Pharm, Law, and graduate students are doing just as much.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you all for bearing with that. I know it's a lot of questions. I've had a lot myself. Matt has put a lot of thought into this. I just want to say that while I think we all have questions about maybe like specifics and details about this, I personally am really excited that there's going to be a second opportunity for student orgs to have funding. It is really hard to almost daily sometimes have to reach out to people and say, I'm sorry, there's nothing that student government can do to help you because of something that's in our codes. And the finance rules are in our codes for reasons, but that is hard. I'm glad that we're expanding like the opportunities for them to have funding. I think we'll keep advocating and working through this process together. And while I'll be graduating in May, Student Life has made it abundantly clear that if this is something that is maybe not working to the best of the ability we hope it could be, we can reevaluate next year. And so I think this is a great place to be reminded that student government is not necessarily a student organization. We're a body that is made to advocate for undergraduate and graduate students. And so if this is something that maybe doesn't work as well as we hope it does, I think that's our place next year, is to, let university leadership know, and we can kind of reevaluate moving forward. So thank you guys so much, and thank you, Matt, for working so hard on this.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
We are now in line for special orders of the Senate. Are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read. Hearing none, we are now in the motion period. Are there any motions from the floor at this time? That was so dramatic. I'm so sorry. It's been a long day. Chairwoman Diapolito. Do the sponsors find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? Without objections, the amendment has been adopted. Chairman Wenzel. There's been a motion to add SBL 116XX to the first reading calendar pertaining to the Finance Committee allocating funds. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The legislation is added to the first reading calendar and given the legislative number is 126. Can I speak? Chairman Wenzel. Do the sponsors find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? Friendly. All right. Without objections, the amendment has been adopted. Senator Iftikhar. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Lyons as Senator Iftikhar's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Iftikhar. Granted. Are there any other motions from the floor at this time? Chairwoman LaPinta. I have to update it on the drive. I believe it was like changing passive language to active language. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Is there a motion for a brief recess so I can fix the drive, please? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We're in a brief recess. It's going to be 30 seconds. Yep. Yeah, I did that already. We are now on the call of the introduction of new legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 116-123, introduced by Senator John, a recommendation to add more restroom facilities in the Jones Physical Science Center.
Senator John, you are recognized to speak on this legislation. Senator Blanton. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Pollock as Senator Blanton's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Blanton. Granted. Senator John, you may continue.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to the Speaker of the Senate, Chairman Gruner, and our amazing senators to help us out in the cancer prevention table. We were able to get a great interaction from our students, so I just want to say thank you. So basically, this legislation is about recommending the university to add more restroom facilities at the Jones Physical Science Center located at 745 Main Street. So just to give you some research and data, according to USC's digital collection that was released in 2021, the physical science building was completed in 1967 and signified USC's emergence as a science research center. However, it is hardly groundbreaking today, as the basement and the second floor of the Jones building only have men's restroom. And this issue was again published by the Daily Gamecock last year, actually in 2024, further emphasizing the urgent need for improvements to the Jones Physical Science Center, citing the lack of proper bathroom facilities as one of the examples of the broader issues impacting students and faculty. So right now, as of right now, there is actually a renovation going in Jones, which is great. So if you go to the website of USC, it says this is what it says at the website. After having its first floor renovated in recent years, Jones Physical Science Center now has its second and third floors, labs, undergoing renovations to ready them for the future research and classes. So as I said before, this is actually very great news that there's renovation going on, but as you can see, it has been requested by our former and current students for many years to add more restroom to Jones. So I would consider this as a bigger issue which needs immediate action. So basically, I'm requesting the university to allocate funds to add more restrooms to the Jones Physical Science Center, ensuring they are accessible and to be included into the ongoing renovation plan for greater efficiency. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The senator yields for time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Senator Matthews. For how long? Okay, there's been a motion to, sorry, let me Robert's rules this in my head. Okay, wait, no, that makes sense. Okay, there's been a motion to table SBL 116-126 indefinitely. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, the legislation is tabled indefinitely. Senator John. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Gruner as Senator John's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator John. Granted. Chairman Wenzel.
Motion on table, SBL exits, a recommendation to permit the finance committee allocate funds to the second reading calendar.
There's been a motion to remove SBL 116-126 and place it on the second reading calendar. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, the legislation is untabled and placed on the second reading contested calendar. Okay, point of information, if something is tabled indefinitely and then somebody moves it off the table, it is then placed on the second contested calendar. Also, if there was to be perhaps a mathematical error in our finance bill, it can be amended at any time during the Senate session. They might just need 30 seconds to get that amendment in, so. Chairwoman LaPinta. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Cumby as Chairwoman LaPinta's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Granted. Going back to SBL 116-123, are there any other questions? Just making sure. Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Health and Safety Committee. Continuing on with the first reading calendar, the clerk will now read. Hearing none, we are now on the call of the uncontested calendar. The clerk will now read.
SBL 116-104, sponsored by Chairman Doppolito, Chairman LaPenta, and Vice Chairperson Miller, a bill to amend Section 1260 to prevent conflict of interest due to branch position overlap.
The sponsors are recognized to speak on this legislation.
So this legislation was tabled last week so that we had time to write an amendment. So we added in the terms that it will not take effect until next term. And then we also added, along with that you can't hold a position in more than one branch, that this excludes the philanthropic council. I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Point of information, if a senator left and then is back, you can just come sit back down. It's okay. Senator Iftikhar is back. Okay, are there any questions for the chairwoman? Senator Lyons.
Is there a reason you don't want to implement this bill until the next session?
We have someone in freshman council and the elections committee. Though the freshman council's not actually in a branch technically, because they do everything, just to clear up confusion, we're gonna start it next term.
Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. This legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the uncontested legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 116-119, sponsored by Finance Committee, a bill to allow the Finance Committee to review requests submitted fewer than 15 university days before the event.
The sponsors are recognized to speak on this bill.
Hi, guys. So we did an amendment to this bill to essentially make it active language rather than passive. But essentially, this bill allows the Finance Committee to vote on any request that gets to its steps so long as it's before the event date, although there are some exceptions to that. But yeah, unless you got anything, Jeff? All right, I yield to questions.
The sponsors yield their time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Chairwoman Cassetti. Okay. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Gay as Chairwoman Cassetti's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairwoman Cassetti. Granted. Senator Goodrich. Are you at 3 already?
I will be at 3.
Okay. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Gruner as y'all test me. Senator Gruner as Senator Goodrich's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Goodrich. Granted. Are there any other questions for the sponsors?
Wait. Yeah. 20-ish?
Okay. Seeing none, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. This legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the uncontested legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 116-120, sponsored by Senator Sowell, a recommendation to increase maintenance on the bathrooms in Coker Life Sciences building.
Senator Sowell, you're recognized to speak on this legislation.
Hey y'all, so this is just a simple recommendation and to possibly renovate the bathrooms in Coker Life Sciences building. The doors to the bathroom stalls don't lock, so it just leaves the person who's using the restroom to have to sit there and hold the door closed while they're using it. And there have also been incidents where students have been walked in on while using the restroom since the doors can't close. So this just leads to privacy and safety concerns. So if we're able to get these bathrooms proper maintenance, then we can make students feel more comfortable and less vulnerable when using restrooms. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The senator yields her time to questions. Are there any questions for the senator? Seeing none, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. Wait till it's up on the calendar. We will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. This legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the uncontested legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 116-121, sponsored by Senator Geddens and Blanton, a recommendation to increase access to transportation at the College of Nursing Clinical Education Building in West Columbia.
Senator Geddens, you're recognized to speak on this legislation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have no changes from last week. This recommendation aims to get the USC bus system to come out to the College of Nursing and the new satellite campus in West Columbia. Nursing students are still paying the transportation fee and their tuition, but do not have access to it. And second, we're asking that the College of Nursing create a student-managed and student-run resource can be used for carpooling for nursing students to use to get to their various clinical sites, which span a 50-mile radius around Columbia. I'll yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. This legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the uncontested legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 116-122, sponsored by Senator Lyons, a recommendation to immediately address pressing pedestrian safety concerns on Barnwell Street.
Senator Lyons, you're recognized to speak on this legislation.
Hey guys, so I went into a lot of detail last week about this. Nothing has changed about this bill. Basically, right on Barnwell Street, outside of the Capstone building, there should be two crosswalk signs in the middle of the street, so that like pedestrians know you can cross here, but more importantly that drivers coming down that road know that it is a legal crosswalk. And one of those signs has been missing for a few weeks, and the other one is damaged and faded. And also the state mandated painted lines that indicate a crosswalk are severely faded as well. So there's just some concerns that I've seen, because I cross through there all the time, that like drivers aren't really noticing that students are crossing the street there. And that's like student safety is really important. And also at the end of this bill, it recommends that the school works with the city to address the other crosswalks and areas around campus that have such like pedestrian safety concerns. I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Geddens.
Point of information, you can actually go online to the SCDOT website and it'll pull up like a work request. You can go right there and pinpoint the exact location of where the markings need to be repainted and just go figure it out.
So I did file a report with the DOT. They directed me to the county. I had talked to the county and they said it's the city's problem. And so a report was filed with the city. So, yeah.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. This legislation is now adopted. Continue on with the call of the uncontested legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 116-125, sponsored by Senator Geddens, a recommendation to increase insurance coverage and transparency at the Center for Student Health and Wellbeing.
Senator Geddens, you're once again recognized. I think my fingers are freezing.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This recommendation aims to expand insurance coverage at this Center for Health and Wellbeing. Currently, they're only in network with one insurance plan, which is the student health insurance plan. The majority of students here are covered under their parents' plan, which is considered out of network. I'd like to see the Student Health Center expand their coverage to kind of reflect the major hospital systems coverage here in Columbia, and also post prices, their cash price online. So students, if students still are out of network with their insurance, students can better make an informed decision if it would be more convenient for them to pay the out-of-pocket price to have the convenience of walking steps to the Student Health Center to get their health care, or finding somewhere else to go that's in network with their insurance. That's all I have. I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. This legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the uncontested legislation, the clerk will now read. Hearing none, that completes the call of the uncontested legislation. We are now on the call of the contested legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 116-126, introduced by Finance Committee, a recommendation to permit the Finance Committee to allocate funds.
Chairman Wenzel.
Motion to add amendment 1 to this bill.
Do the sponsors find this amendment friendly or unfriendly?
Friendly.
Without objection, so ordered. Did you send that to me?
Yes, it should be in your email. Would you like me to?
You can keep going. I'll do
Okay.
it right now.
Sorry for the confusion. It appears that I severely botched this one, so, but long story short, Jack
How
helped
dare
me
you.
figure it out, so thank you, Jack. But, the adjusted totals, student organizations requested $19,120.63, and we approved the allocation of $17,877.59. With that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will now move to a roll call vote, but point of information, you can motion to pass any bill at any time by unanimous consent, but up to you guys. Vice Chairman Matthews. There's been a motion to pass SBL 116-126 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the contested legislation, the clerk will now read. Seeing none, we are now in line for a period of open discussion. Does any senator wish to bring a matter of attention to the body? Seeing none, we're now in line for a period of announcements. Are there any announcements from the floor at this time? All right, awesome. I have like a really quick one. So just first off, please don't forget that we have Senate next week. Please come dressed appropriately. And then very quickly, I'm gonna keep the Chairwoman Diapolito. I mean next week, as in the next Senate week. Yes. On Wednesday, you guys will all be on spring break. I will be in Russell House doing Senate alone. So that should be awesome. But yeah, 2 weeks, the 19th. We're all on the same page. You know what? I'm going to push it to next week. Just know that there's Senate Excellence Awards coming. Also, I would recommend that you guys all come to the caucus once we fix the time, because right now it's scheduled during Senate and that's not happening. But there is a Senator of the Year award, and that person is sitting here right now. That's scary. Yeah, but that person's sitting here right now, so y'all should definitely go and cheer on whoever it is. And it might be one of you guys who won the award. So definitely, please be there. Once again, I'll be out of town. And then, actually, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you guys have done for me over the past week. It actually means so much to me. I'm yielding to the well because it's 7 o'clock. With no further announcements, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Without objection, the Senate will now stand adjourned until Wednesday, March 19th, 2025.